Aloha, welcome to Write On. I'm Diann Wilson from the Hawaii Writers Guild, and this is a show that gives tips, education, and inspiration to all you writers out there. And today's guest is Eila Allgood. Welcome, Eila.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today, Diann. It's great to see you.
It's great to see you, and we are doing something totally different that I know I can count on you for, which is we're just going to be spontaneous today. I have been following you on social media, and I've seen that you have a couple of publications, and I thought I need to get her on the show and we need to talk about them. So let's start with, I know one of them is a book of poetry. Can you tell us a little bit about it, please?
Sure. So is this reading correctly or is it backwards?
Nope, it's forward.
Okay, it's backwards in mine. But anyway, this is the book. This is a hardcover. I had it published. It's called Estuary. I had it published just a couple months ago through Amazon. I'd worked with them before about 8 years ago, publishing a few books. And I had considered other ways of publishing. I looked into, I think it's Blurb or Book Baby, maybe both of them. And I had considered that after I had this mostly done on Amazon. And I want to say it took quite a few hours. First, of course, you have to go through the process of editing every one of your poetry is complicated when it comes to publishing it, because each poem we want to have start at a new page, right? So it's not just like a book where it just you plug it in and it just formats it and you're done. Boom, boom. This is more complicated because you want everything to start on the top of a page. You don't want a new poem here in the middle of a blank page. So that does take a bit of time. However, I kind of like the process. I like the challenge. Towards the end of it, I was getting a little tired of the whole process, as you can imagine. And so I looked into these other things, and they charge, I want to say, $1,500 to $2,500 to work with you to get your book published, cover, inside, the whole thing. Well, I had done so much work at that point. I thought, well, what are you going to do for me for that kind of money? But maybe it's worth it. Maybe I'll get this finished product that will sell and I'll be so happy that it would be worth the investment. So I'm not adverse to it. However, when I got to that point and I was ready to go, I wanted to know what the retail price would be. Like, what is it going to cost me to publish just a simple paperback, because that's what I've done before. And these are not thick books, right? And for a paperback version of this, I would have had to charge about $23. And no one is going to spend $23 on this thick of a poetry book that's paperback. It's just not. I think my cost was like $17. So this is important for people who are considering publishing, because not only is there the upfront cost, but then there's the cost per book. And what I like about working through Amazon and their publishing arm is that you can get one book and you can pay for a paperback, I think it's $6. Oh, wow. So that's a huge difference. So now I can charge $10, say I'm selling locally, I can just to get the book out there, I can charge $10 and still at least make some money, where the other book, even if I charge $17, I'd make nothing, and nobody wants to pay that much. So that was a big learning about having that kind of joint venture publishing.
Okay. So yeah. It sounds like with all of these publishers, though, they set at least a minimum price that you need to charge. Is that correct?
They give you what your cost is. And yeah, there is a minimum. I'm trying to remember that it's all kind of figured out. Like if your book costs, say it's $6 for you to publish it, they'll say, you know, your minimum that you should be asking is, say, $12.
Okay.
And you can charge more than that if you want. You can go more, but you can't go less. They set the bottom retail price you can ask. I know some people will do like run a special where especially an ebook is free through Amazon, through Kindle, for a month or in introduction or something. But yeah, there's a minimum retail price that you have to ask. And the other company, again, I think it was Blurb, was the same, but their minimum was so expensive that it just didn't make sense to me.
Okay. Now, you started
Yeah.
by saying how many hours it took. I was afraid you were going to say how many years it took for you to get this thing ready. How many pages is it? And can you estimate how much time you spent doing the upfront prep work?
All right, let's see how many pages. So 112
Okay.
on the poetry book. And it's 8 years of my poetry, so it's a lot. I am not somebody, so it's good for people also to know, I think, the way I write. I write when I'm inspired. I am not somebody who sets a date or a time like, oh, every day at 10 a.m. I'm going to write, or once a week I'm going to write a poem. I have attempted that and it's been successful, but it's not the creative flow that I get when I'm just inspired by something that either emotional, something going on in my life that's emotional, those are probably the most charged poems I have. It could be kind of what's going on in the world. I have not written about the pandemic at all. There will be a time that maybe I will. Could be political. It just kind of depends how something hits me. And a lot of times it's nature too. There are certain experiences I'll have in nature that will say, there's a poem here, and I'll start writing a poem. So anyway, that's a little bit about writing poetry for me.
Okay.
So I have 8 years of poems, and then I decided it was time to put them in something. I have sent them out to many different places for publishing, and many poems have been published that way. But there comes a time where my file is just clogged up with a lot, and I don't even remember them anymore. So I wanted to put it in a book, because for me, that's a way of kind of closing my thought process, my attachment to these poems. And then it's like, okay, I can start fresh again.
And so you did this through Amazon. The book is now available through Amazon, but you can also order yourself hard print copies that you could take to bookstores, for example, and have them sell.
Yes. Yeah. And I will ask Kona Stories down in Keaho. They're friends, and I've been doing stuff there for years. I'll ask them about if they would carry the book, and I'll ask them if I can do a reading there, because they're open again for readings. Yay.
No.
Yeah. So, there's I don't know that this is going to be a big moneymaker for me. It's a labor of love, and I want to get it out how best I can. One of the things I did, I was in New York recently, and I went to a number of libraries, and I've done this before, where I bring my books to the library and ask if they would take it as a donation and if they would like it. And I've done it in Denver when I was visiting my brother. I'll do it here when I get to the library, all the libraries on the island. And, it's a nice way to know that your work is someplace while you're working on the marketing aspect of it, because you kind of have to give things away also to get. So yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
I want to get on to the other book as well, but before we go there, is there a poem perhaps you could share from this book?
Sure. I'd love to. And I also have a story that I'd love to share with you. So this book is called Estuary. This is a picture I took of an estuary at the bottom of Pololu Valley. Photography is a passion of mine too. So there are some, the beginning of each chapter, there's 4 chapters. There's a picture as well. My last poetry book had tons of pictures, but I took it easy on this one. So I'd like to read for you, it's called Pololu Serenity. And it's this photograph
Nice.
that inspired it and my time down there. Step on soft ground amongst trunks of truth. Shadows present through filtered sunlight. Rich bright greens tell tale of precipitation. Gentle moving water searches for the sea. The scene created to absorb with appreciation exhibits tranquility, brilliance, and beauty. Breeze through trees offers damp skin a way to dry. Large log on ground provides place to rest. Scents of salt air and pine fill lungs and spirit. Feel the ancestors who walked upon the earth. Their presence brings calm. Visualize the descendants frolicking along the river as a vision of hope. Serenity rises and relaxes, providing respite for today.
Oh, lovely. Thank you for taking me there. Yeah, that was lovely. Okay.
Thank you. Thank
Yes,
you.
we could all use a little serenity these days. So, okay.
You
Wonderful.
know, absolutely. And I'd love to share a story with you about this book, if you don't mind.
Yes, please.
I was recently at, there was an event at our local artist co-op here in Kapa'au a few months ago while I was in the editing process of the book. And somebody I know locally was going to read some poems. So I didn't know she wrote poems. So I thought it was kind of exciting. I said, oh, I'll stay for that. I want to see, I want to support a local poet. So she got up and she started to read, but she was reading like famous people poems. She wasn't reading her own. She does write poetry, but unlike me, she's a little more humble, and she read somebody else's. So she read 1, 2, 3, and then the 4th poem, she's reading it. And I'm like, oh my God, that is so familiar. Why is that so familiar? Oh my God, that's my poem.
Oh.
So she didn't know who wrote the poem. She picked it off the internet for Earth Day. It's in my book. It's called At the Rim. She came and sat, she was sitting next to me. I said, I have to tell you, that was my poem you just read. And she said, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I would have told everyone. Wait, I'll go tell everyone it's your poem. And she came back and she sat down, but it was just the synchronicity of that happening that for me was a strong confirmation that, yeah, I needed to finish this book and get my work out there, because obviously somebody thought it was worth reading at an event. So that's my story.
Oh, that's very cool. Very cool. So I know you have another book as well, and I wondered if you could take a little bit of time to share that with us and talk about that process.
Yeah, so this is a book. This is I don't write a lot of fiction, yet I like to sometimes tell stories. And it's kind of coincidental that last time I wrote a poetry book, I also wrote a novelette like this, same kind of size, same idea. I don't know how that happens, but this was something I started some years ago, didn't know where it was going, but I started it in a place that I had once spent time in New York State up at a lake. And I just started making stuff up, and I kind of enjoyed the process of making up characters and making up what could have happened here and then what happened over there and how these people interacted. So this is the book. It's called Smitten and Bitten.
Okay, I like it.
And it's a romantic story between 2 women. And because I'm married to a woman for 17 years, we've been together 21 years. It's nice to put out, romantic adventures for other couples who want to read about it, or women who might want to read about it. And it starts in a place called Silver Bay. Was it Silver? No, it was Tongue Mountain in the Adirondack Mountains on a beautiful place. I used to spend a lot of time, Lake George. And then it goes to Manhattan. That's why I took this picture of Manhattan last year when I was there. So Manhattan, spend some time in Manhattan, and then it goes to Connecticut. So kind of went to places where I used to live and used to spend time, and some of it's made up and some of it is real. And so it was kind of fun. Yeah.
Now, did this book come out before or after your poetry book?
This came out first. This was actually my way of getting comfortable with the editing program again.
Okay.
That's why I did it, because I knew this was such a big job to tackle. So I thought, well, let me, I had this almost ready to go. I needed very little editing, so I could get it right into their template and see what that process was, because they did change quite a few things in 8 years, as you can imagine.
Mhm. And then,
Yeah, so I did that.
do you have photos in this book as well?
No, no,
just
just the
the
cover and the
Okay.
back. Yeah,
Okay.
it's just, and for those of you who are thinking about doing self-publishing, what they offer is a format, and you can use their photos, which usually really don't connect to your book, but I have used them in the past. Now they let you, 8 years ago, they didn't let you upload a picture sometimes, that it was kind of more limited. Anyway, you can put your own picture in there, or you can ask a friend for a picture that you would like to use. It's just important that the quality is really good for putting on your cover.
Okay, good. I
Yeah.
think I'm looking at the clock and I see we're running out of time, and I think we could talk for another hour probably about this, but this was just a good taste for all the viewers
Yeah.
out there who are thinking, I'd like to publish. I've been thinking about self-publishing, gave a lot of good information to them. Is there any last word of advice you'd want to pass on to our viewers?
Yeah, enjoy the process. It's not just about the end product. We're all, I think as writers, many of us are motivated by different things to do our writing. And there's something very satisfying in publishing something like this, rather than just keeping it in your computer. I know a lot, I do writers groups, right? And there are people who've been sharing their work for years with my group, but they haven't gotten it out there yet. And I just want to encourage people, if you can't do the book, at least get something that you can get published, because I think it's kind of serving humanity for us to share our work, because each of our voices is so unique. You have a great sense of humor in your writing. So, we need that. We need all these different voices. So stick with it. Call me if you have a problem. I'm happy to work with somebody or just talk to them a little bit.
Excellent. Do you have your own website? If people wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
I do have my own website, but it has nothing to do with my books.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And in fact, I have another new website for my business. So
I could
probably
share email address at the end of this. Is that?
Yeah. And you know what? They could contact me through my website, because it's just my name. It's www.eilallgood.com, and it's up here on the screen. So that might be the easiest thing to do. If they want to get in touch, they can go on the website and just look for how to contact me.
Okay, sounds good. And
Okay.
so if people also have information about the Hawaii Writers Guild, I encourage you to go online and take a look. It's www.hawaiiwritersguild.com, and right on.